but we needs a few good taters.
What's taters, brothers? What's taters, huh?
Potatoes, potatoes.
The Lord of the Rings is a high fantasy novel by J.R.R. Tolkien that has inspired over 50 video games, but despite that, many of the games have been considered relatively average. In this video, we'll explore the depth of the Lord of the Rings lore, the influences that it has on the genre, and why the movies are considered some of the greatest films ever made. However, we'll also take a look at the history of the Lord of the Rings video games from the Atari's Journey to Rivendell to the most recent release, Return to Moria, and why they often have failed to live up to the expectations set by the books and movies. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of Middle-earth and the mixed legacy of the Lord of the Rings video games. J.R.R. Tolkien began dreaming up Middle-earth in 1914 as an Oxford undergraduate at the outbreak of World War I, in which he went into a fight as a British Army officer at the Battle of Somme. He created the mythology to express his feelings about good, evil, fair, and foul. In 1937, he published the adventure story The Hobbit, and in the 1950s, he wrote the epic trilogy The Lord of the Rings. The books enchanted some readers. As Tolkien's fellow writer C.S. Lewis put it, "Here are beauties which pierce like swords or burn like cold iron." The Lord of the Rings was adapted into a film trilogy by Peter Jackson, which was a monumental achievement in filmmaking history. The trilogy changed the face of the fantasy films and tackled a number of challenges along the way. But it all worked out in the end. The budget for the Lord of the Rings trilogy was about $281 million. The films were a major financial success and are among the highest grossing film series of all time, with almost $3 billion in worldwide recipients. Tolkien spent 40 years of his life completing The Lord of the Rings. Despite being a fantasy series, it tends to take an alternative life based on historic events. The franchise was popular not only in its imaginative storytelling, but it also is incredibly ahead of its time. But The Lord of the Rings is just one part of Tolkien's larger legendarium. The Silmarillion and the Children of Hurin in particular provides a detailed history of Middle-earth and its inhabitants, including the creation of the world, the wars between Valar and Morgoth, and the rise and fall of the Elven kingdoms. Other books may be of interest include the Unfinished Tales and the History of Middle-earth series, which provides additional background and context to Tolkien's works. The Lord of the Rings is considered one of the greatest fantasy books ever written, and it's helped create and shape the modern fantasy genre. Since the release, it's been printed many times and translated in at least 38 languages. Its enduring popularity has led numerous references in popular culture. The Lord of the Rings is a beloved franchise, and it's been adapted into various games over the years. But why haven't we been able to find a dev team that can encapsulate that success and translate it into a video game success? I'm not going to go through every single one of the games released under the Lord of the Rings franchise or inspired by the franchise, but I will talk about the top 5. The Lord of the Rings Third Age was released in 2004. It was developed by EA Redwood Shores for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. The game is a role-playing turn-based game where the characters can swap out clothes, weapons, and armors which they collect after fights and they find in chests throughout their journey. It follows a group of characters who are not part of the main story. It received generally positive reviews and is considered one of the best Lord of the Rings games. The game features deep gameplay and expands on all 3 films, and the player can travel to familiar and unfamiliar places such as the Mines of Moria, Helm's Deep, Pelennor Fields, Minas Tirith, and the host of unexpected locations like the White Mountain Plains. Players can fight alongside or against key characters of the Lord of the Rings such as Aragorn, Gandalf, Legolas, Éowyn, and Balrog. Despite this being one of the best Lord of the Rings games that have been released, the game did receive mixed reviews from critics and fans alike. Some praised the game's graphic, story, and music, while others criticized the repetitive gameplay and lack of innovation. Despite the mixed reviews, the game was a commercial success, with sales above 1 million units worldwide by the end of 2004. In 2011, The Lord of the Rings War in the North was released. It was developed by Snowblind Studios and published by Warner Bros. For PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows. It was the first video game based on both Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson's film adaptations. The game was set in the northern regions of Middle-earth and features an original story that runs parallel to the events of the books and films. The game allowed the players to control 3 characters, a human ranger, an elf, and a dwarf. Each player had unique abilities and combat styles, and the player could switch between them at any time. The game also features exclusive character customization, development, expansive co-op gameplay options, and upgradable weapons, skills, and special abilities. The game is set in various locations of Middle-earth, including Mirkwood, Rivendell, Carn-Dûm, Sarnford, Gundabad, Barrow Downs, Bree, Fornost, Norenbad, Osglath, and Lorien. And once again, despite the mixed reviews, it was still a commercial success, which is why I put it in one of the top-rated Lord of the Rings games. Now, to take a break from the turn-based RPGs that the last 2 were, now we're going to talk about Conquest. It was released in 2009 and developed by Pandemic Studios and published by Electronic Arts. This was an action strategy game that allowed players to fight on both sides of good and evil in the biggest battles from the Lord of the Rings movies. The game featured a mass cast of characters and weapons, including heroes, wargs, ents, olifants, cave trolls, balrog, Nazgul, Baleste, and more. The game featured local multiplayer split screen for up to 4 players, or a 2-player co-op. The game has largely been forgotten in recent years, but some fans still enjoy playing it, and have created mods to improve the game's graphics and gameplay. Now, you're probably going to laugh at this one, but in 2012, LEGO released a Lord of the Rings game. It was an action-adventure that followed the events of the movie, but in a humorous LEGO twist. It's a fan favorite and a great choice for younger players, with a large character roster, accessible gameplay, and immersive locations. It might not be specifically your favorite, but a lot of people really did appreciate this game, and I'll tell you why. Because it was creative, and it was a little bit different. And who doesn't appreciate humor in anything? I am going to talk about a couple other games, but this will bring me to the last on the list of the top 5. The Lord of the Rings Online is an MMO set in Middle-earth. The game was released in 2007 and has gained a dedicated player base. Players can create their own characters and explore Middle-earth, completing quests and fighting enemies along the way. Characters can go up to level 130 through experience gained by slaying monsters and fulfilling deeds. Deeds can also award reputation, title, and treasures. I did make a character so I could authentically talk about this MMO, because I do love MMOs and I do love Lord of the Rings. Players can choose from different races and classes, but there's no factions in the game like in WoW. However, there is a game mode called Eaton Wars. Players can choose to play as a Free Peoples or the forces of Angmar. There's several races to choose from in Lord of the Rings Online. Dwarves, elves, hobbits, men, Beoring, and the newest one, released in 2017, the High Elf. Each race has its own advantages and disadvantages. For example, humans have increased fate and might, as well as extra morale when inspired, but decreased will. Dwarves have increased vitality and might, but decreased agility. Elves have increased agility and resistance to disease and poison, but decreased fate, maximum morale, and morale regeneration outside of combat. There's actually quite a few classes to choose from in Lord of the Rings Online, and I found them quite interesting. Burglar, Captain, Champion, Guardian, Hunter, Lore Master, Minstrel, and Beoring. And believe it or not, there's actually quite a few builds out and a meta. I wasn't sure what to expect coming into this, knowing that the game was outdated and it was giving classic WoW, but there was something endearing about the qualities of the game. Is it outdated? Sure, but there's a lot of lore to unfold in Lord of the Rings Online. If you can get past the outdated graphics and the cash shop, I think you might actually enjoy the game a little bit. Sure, not all of the quests are voice acted, and it's kind of confusing to hear the NPC talk while having captions appear above their head, while also having a dialogue box for the quest, but I have made it through Final Fantasy XIV Online, and I'm pretty sure I could figure this out. According to MMO populations, the estimated daily player base for this game as of this month, October 2023, is still around 30K, with a total player base of 3 million. According to a Reddit post, usually around peak times on Evernight, one of the game servers, there's around 1,100 to 1,300 players on the social panel. Steam charts indicates that there are about 1,100 players playing live on Steam. The game is still receiving updates, with one being Echoes of the Dead, released September 2023. The update includes new quest instances and rewards. From the research I've done, they're still receiving patch notes, and the community seems extremely supportive, no matter how small it is and how long the game has been out. The game has an active community with forums, discords, and other subreddits where players can discuss the game, share tips, and ask for help. As I stated, the graphics are outdated, but if you're looking for a game to scratch that itch and you do enjoy playing a tab target MMO, I would probably give this a chance. It does have a lot of redeeming and endearing qualities about it that kind of gives that nostalgic vibe. Now, let's take a little brain break. Close your eyes and imagine that LARIAN Studios comes out with a Baldur's Gate 3-esque Lord of the Rings game. Just imagine it. How beautiful would it be if LARIAN Studios made a Lord of the Rings game? Now back to reality. We're going to talk about the two games that were released recently in 2023. Well, one has been released already, and one is expected to be released by the end of this year. Right now, we're going to talk about Gollum. Now, this is a huge feat to beat, in my opinion. Gollum was released this year, 2023, and it's considered one of the worst games ever. The game is developed by Daedalus Entertainment and published by Nacon. The game was based on Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and it is set before the events of the books and the movies. The game was intended to offer a unique Lord of the Rings experience that would differ from any seen in the past. However, the game failed to live up to any expectations at all. It was plagued with bugs, technical glitches, crappy animation, poor voice acting, dated graphics, awkward controls, and overall uninspired writing. The game was so bad that the dev team is ending all in-house developing and stopping working on another Untitled Lord of the Rings game in that studio they've been working on since mid-2022. The Lord of the Rings game Gollum is an example of how video game adaptations cannot rely on the success of their source material. It must be well crafted and well designed in the experiences to garner any sort of positive feedback from critics. Larian, please make a Lord of the Rings game. So now let's get into Return to Moria. It's expected to be released actually in 2 days from me releasing this video. The game was first revealed on June 10th, 2022 in the Epic Games Summer Showcase. It was already teased in 2022. And honestly, I'm not even really that excited about it. It's not even going to be released on Steam. Okay, I'll go into the details of it, but it's not even going to be released on Steam. It's going to be through the Epic Game Store. It features the Dwarven Realm, and the trailer just didn't look that great to me. Like, I could sit here and go through all of the details of all of the game. I'll feature the trailer here. But I just really want Larian to make a Lord of the Rings game. That's kind of just where I'm at this point. Please, Larian, make a Lord of the Rings game. Until we can convince Larian to recreate Middle-earth for us, I'm gonna name off some games that are available to mod. You can mod Baldur's Gate with the help of Nexus 1118. They created a mod that not only brings the characters to life, but also expands the party limit within the game to match the number of members in the Fellowship of the Ring, including Frodo, Sam, Pippin, Merry, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Aragorn, and Gandalf. This means the players can now party up with these characters and explore the game together. The mod has gained popularity among fans of both franchises. There are several other games that you can mod to make similar to Lord of the Rings, including Age of Mythology. The Legends of Middle-earth is a complete overhaul that brings the world of Lord of the Rings to life with hundreds of new units, playable civilizations, new maps, and unique mechanics. We did talk about the Third Age earlier in this video, but there is also a mod that adds those elements to 2 games, and those 2 games are Mount and Blade Warband and Medieval 2 Total War. Though the 2 mods are both named after the Third Age, they're 2 separate downloads, obviously. I just have to make sure I state that. It includes events from Lord of the Rings, and it replaces almost all of the elements of both of the games. In Mount and Blade, it replaces the faction, maps, and visuals. In Medieval Total War, the mod makes it seem like it's an actual Lord of the Rings game, and you totally forget that you're playing Total War to begin with. If you're a big fan of Minecraft, there's several mods that add armor sets, weapons, wizard hats, and even the One Ring, to larger mods that recreate iconic locations and add Uruk-hai enemies. I think it's really cute. I've played Skyrim through Minecraft, so I think the idea of being able to play Lord of the Rings while surviving in Minecraft is kind of adorable. I think this would have to be my favorite option aside from Baldur's Gate 3, and it's obviously going to be Skyrim. There's several small mods that add items or characters, but the only project that's really worth attention when it comes to big mods is Middle-earth, Lord of the Rings redone. It offers a vast new land recreating the most famous locations of Middle-earth. If you're into Civ-type games, Crusader Kings 2 has a Middle-earth project mod that allows players to explore the world of Middle-earth in a grand strategy game. It includes new cultures, religions, and events, as well as a map that covers all of Middle-earth. Last but not least, we have cities, Skylines. The Lord of the Rings map is a mod that allows players to build their own Middle-earth city, complete the iconic locations such as the Shire, Rivendell, and Midas Tirith. These mods have been created by dedicated fans and have been praised for their attention to detail and the effort they put into recreating the world of Middle-earth. This is honestly why I've dedicated so much time of my life and dedicated most of my channels to RPGs, is because of the communities. There's so many fans of Lord of the Rings, and the fact that people have taken some of our favorite games and turned it into Middle-earth is absolutely admirable, and I really appreciate that, and I know there's a lot of people out there who appreciate that as well. If we could only get a dedicated dev team who would really give us something that scratches that itch, it would be amazing, honestly. As always, have a good day, have a good night, wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching. I was actually really excited to make this video, And I'm actually really excited to make all the videos I've been making. Thank you so much for your support so far. I super duper appreciate it. It means the absolute world to me. I hope you guys are enjoying them, and I hope life is treating you well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button for me. Leave a little comment below about what you think, what your favorite Lord of the Rings game is, if you have one, and tell me a little fun fact if you feel like it. Love you guys so much. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.